Welcome back to the Coosa River Farm Boys here on Lay Lake, and we're continuing on a series of interviewing young local people who are making a difference and doing big things. Otter, talk about who we got today.
Okay, we had a great young man last week, and I know a lot of you saw that because our views were great, and thank you for that. But today we got another great young man. We got Mason Laurin, who is fishes on the Sylacauga High fishing team. He is the #1 ranked high school fishing prospect in the nation. So wow. That's right?
Yes, sir.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And we're glad to have you. And we're going to ask Mason everything that he's got going on except what color underwear he's got on today. We want to ask that. But other than that, he's fair game today. So.
All right, Mason, what got you into bass fishing and at what age?
So I actually fished my grandmother's pond whenever I was about 6 years old. Let's see now, I was 5 years old whenever I fished my grandmother's pond, and I'll never forget this. My first bass I ever caught was a 5-pound bass out of that pond, and no feeling ever compared to that.
So you were hooked literally and figuratively at that point, right?
Yes, I actually fished a little bit with my dad whenever I was younger. We used to go crappie fish, but that one giant bass in that pond changed everything for me.
Okay, all right.
And to take that the next step up, so how did you go from fishing to competitive fishing?
So me and my parents, we were living in Childersburg at the time, and we moved to Fayetteville in the house that I live in now. And we lived right up on Lay Lake and Cedar Creek, and I had a neighbor, Mr. Duncan and Seth Butts. I
went to church with them. They went to Fayetteville Baptist, yeah.
I actually walked the banks, and I happened to meet Mr. Duncan one day, and I used to go down every single afternoon, and we would talk all the time, just talk about fishing. And his grandson, Seth, would actually take me out fishing, and we fished a Tuesday night tournament. It was the first tournament I ever fished, and we won with 17 pounds.
Wow.
With 5 fish.
With 5 fish.
Well, see, that's so cool. It's a small world because Mr. Duncan and Seth, of course, Mr. Duncan's passed away now. Yeah. Great guy. But went to Fayetteville Methodist Church at that time. But just a wonderful guy. So you had a good role model that kind of took you under his wing and shows you and got you even more interested in it.
Exactly, yeah. So we didn't have a boat at the time or anything like that. So somebody to actually get me out there, that's what made me say, you know what, I want to take this to the next level. Even whenever you're 9, 10 years old, $100 in your pocket's a big deal.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. How many tournaments would you guess at, you're a junior in high school now at Sylacauga High, and how many tournaments, just whether sanctioned or just local tournaments, do you probably fish in a year?
I know for sure in a year I fish over 50 a year.
So basically one a week.
And even whenever it's not something on the schedule, I'm going to find one, no matter what. I'm always trying to put time on the water, because the more time you spend out there, the more you're going to learn.
Right. Awesome. Man, he is wise beyond. If we had this wisdom when we were 16 or 17,
well, it sounds like he's took in, the time he spent with the guys talking, he took in every bit of that knowledge. He just soaked it up like a sponge.
Absolutely.
Now, I had a buddy that went a full year, 365 days, and fished every day. Have you done anything? Are you close to that?
Now that, I can't do that because, being in school and stuff like that, I would, there's a lot of times where actually whenever I get out of school, I'll get on the water, but with the way things are right now, gas is kind of tough to be doing that,
Right. Yeah, you're right about that.
Well, let me answer this question. We talked earlier, you already are receiving a lot of information about colleges. Talk about colleges that are recruiting you for their bass fishing teams and things like that.
So I'm talking to Carson Newman University. They're actually out of Tennessee. They're a private Christian college, and it's really cool because my buddy, he is actually the recruiter there. he used to fish at Montevallo, and he got signed on with a job to be a recruiter there. So me and him have been talking a little bit, and a lot of this also I want to mention has been help from NSR. They're a recruiting program in Alabama, but they go all over the nation, and pretty much you can sign on, you can start a 5-star profile, and you can actually get a star ranking. And that's how I actually got ranked #1, was because of all the videos, social media grades, and of course fishing. That all comes into play. Troy University, they're in Alabama, and Drury University in Missouri. So those are 3 of my big colleges that I'm talking to right now, and I'm sure there's only more to come.
No, sure.
Okay, tell us what NSR stands for.
NSR stands for National Student Recruiting, and it also stands for National Scouting Report. So it kind of has 2 meanings to it, but it follows along with National Student Recruiting of colleges and National Scouting Report, because they actually come out on these lakes in the tournaments that we fish, and they'll follow the anglers, they'll video the anglers and stuff like that. So
is it just fishing?
It's they actually do stuff for baseball, football, softball, everything. But the guys that I work with, they're specifically sanctioned around just fishing. There's a team for every sport. So don't think that just because you're not a fisherman, you can't do it. Any sport, it can go into play with that as well.
And each kid could kind of create a profile for the student.
Exactly, yeah. And that profile, all colleges that are signed on with the program have access to it, and there are various colleges all around the nation that have access to it. That goes with Auburn University, Alabama University, and all the other really big colleges. So it's not just like there's just a few colleges on there. There's almost every college on that program, because they're sitting there looking for those kids that are good in school, but they're also good at that sport, so they can recruit them onto their team.
Okay.
And what happens if Auburn comes calling?
Well, that has been my dream school for a while.
Well, we all bleed orange and blue, but he bleeds it a little bit deeper than all of us.
Well, Jeff actually played golf at Auburn.
Right, he was on the.
I did back in the 80s.
Yeah, he was on the golf team at Auburn, and I graduated from Auburn, and my youngest son is a student at Auburn now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that would be your dream to go to Auburn, or?
That would be my dream. The program there, it's amazing. It's a student-led team, and actually, I've got a good buddy that he goes to school there now. His name's Tucker Smith. Now, if y'all aren't aware of him, he is the one that won nationals 3 times in a row in high school.
I remember that name.
First year in college, he was him and his partner were pronounced Angler of the Year, and he also won a tournament in his first year in college. That is a big deal.
Wow, that is something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Otter, I know you got some questions over there.
I'm ready. I know you get a lot of support from your family. Talk a little bit about your mom and your dad, and what kind of support you get from them.
Well, my mom and my dad, they were kind of hesitant at first whenever I started fishing. They wanted to make sure that I was fully into it, because before you go spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a bass boat and on tackle and on all that gas, they wanted to make sure that was something that I was fully into. So this is what I did. Whenever I was younger, I actually saved up for a kayak. I saved up $250 and I bought a kayak, and I started kayaking through the slough, and I would go out and fish. And I told my parents, I want to do this. I want to do it.
Okay.
So they finally said, you know what? They took me to Sylacauga Marine and ATV, and they said, pick out what you want. So that's what I did. And every boat that I've gotten since then, I've taken great care of it, and I've just went out because I want to take care of the thing that keeps me doing what I love. So, and my mom, she's like my biggest supporter. Even whenever she can't make it to weigh-in and she's at work, she's on the Facebook Live watching the weigh-in.
Wow.
Every time.
That's impressive.
Well, that is awesome, because his dedication kind of mirrors Aiden Hawkins.
Yeah.
He's the guy we interviewed last week, young guy. He is a cross country runner, but he never misses a day of running. He runs. He's approaching like a year straight without missing a day. But I was going to ask you something else. What kind of influence has William and Will Davis been on you?
That's a great question, and that is something
I got that on my list.
Yeah, that is something I wanted to bring up. William Davis was actually one of my first sponsors. You know, he owns Davis Bait Company, and and his son Will Davis, he's really taken me under his wing, taken me on the water, and really the biggest thing that I take from these anglers are the advice that they give me, the word advice. And I took one of them into consideration. Will Davis told me, when you go out on the water, he said, once you leave that boat ramp, it's not you versus the anglers anymore. He said, it's you versus the fish. The day I took that into consideration, I actually won.
That makes a lot of sense, because if you're, I guess if you're thinking about what the other anglers are doing, you're not focused in on
what you need to be doing.
Right. That's
exactly.
Yeah.
And William, I really love his products that he makes, and you know, like I said, he's local, and he's really the original maker of a lot of the baits that are on the market today. So I love using his products a lot, and I've done good in a lot of tournaments on his baits and products.
Great advice from him, because you don't have control over the other anglers.
Right.
You have no control over
No control.
A lot similar to golf, right, Jeff Rose?
True.
You can't.
Yeah, you got control over yourself.
That's right.
Yeah, that last tournament, it was actually on Neely Henry for King of the Coosa. It was the final stop. And it sucks the way this turned out, but actually I ended up winning the tournament. It was a 3 fish limit. I had 11.91, so I almost had 12 pounds with 3 fish. To go along with that, I had a 5 pound, 15 ounce bass. So it was a 5.15. I took big fish of the tournament, big fish of the year, but the one that got me was I was 1 point away from Angler of the Year.
Oh, wow.
So that was basically like the Triple Crown in baseball, right, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you got, you would have got the Triple Crown. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But you know what you can do with that is take it for your motivation for this next year.
Yep, next year I'm going to fish it again next year. And I told myself at the boat ramp, I said, if I win today, I was like, I'm not going to go after it next year. I'm going to let somebody else have it, because it's a big deal. You know, they actually get you a belt. It's like a wrestling belt.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So if you win, you're crowned King of the Coosa, and you have a big belt. I was gonna set it up in my room and let somebody else win it next year, but
well, that's
now
awesome.
I got to get it next year.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, Otter, you got another question?
Yeah,
Go
you
ahead.
talked about, you mentioned it earlier. What kind of equipment do you use? Rods, reels? I know you use a lot of Davis baits. You mentioned that, but rods, reels, and boat and all that. What are you using right now?
I actually have a Nitro Z21 XL right now. I've actually ran Nitros all my life. The rods and reels that I'm using, I'm running Favorite rods because I actually get a discount on them through NSR. So I run Favorite rods. The reels that I use, I pretty much changed completely over to Shimano. And you'll learn through fishing, you're going to swap through multiple brands. But one thing that I definitely have stuck with is a Nitro boat and a Mercury motor. That's by far that's where my heart sits at. I love a Mercury motor and I love my Nitro. That's where I pretty much sat at. And this year I've actually swapped over. Instead of using Humminbird electronics, I actually swapped over to Lowrance, and I like them better. So
But Mercury and Nitro is your thing.
that's my thing.
I'm a Mercury guy too.
That's my thing.
That black Mercury's hard to beat.
Oh, and fishing can get so controversial, you know, with all the products and brands. Everybody wants to bicker and argue what's better, but to me, I think it's all personal preference.
Right. Now, what's the furthest you've gone away from Central Alabama to fish a tournament?
So far, the farthest I've went is Guntersville, because the hardest that really we stay in one state in one region whenever you're fishing high school tournaments. The one way that you can actually get out of state is whenever you go to like a national event, which is what I'm working towards. Because in order to do that, you have to place really well in a state championship, or like, for example, they're doing an open out here next year on Lay Lake, and I'm going to fish it because that's my shot to make it to nationals.
Wow.
And usually they can do nationals on Chickamauga Lake in Tennessee, Kentucky Lake, stuff like that. So that's what I'm working towards next. Usually I'm still in the Alabama region, but the farthest I've went so far is Guntersville, Wheeler, you know, the Tennessee River chain so far. So
You catch smallmouth up there?
I have actually. That's a fun
That's
bass
a lot
to
of
catch.
fun, yeah.
They're
That's
big fighters, aren't they?
I caught one that was this long and dogged me like a 4-pound spotwood out here.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, I've often asked Jeff, you know, having played college golf and been on the professional circuit, if you only could take 3 or 4 clubs with you, what would he take to play around? If let's say you're on Lay Lake, which is that your favorite lake, or what's your favorite lake?
My favorite lake, actually, I'd have to say would be, man, that's hard. I can't tell you what my favorite lake is because I love all of them. Well, we'll do Lay Lake because I live out here. We'll do Lay Lake.
All right. Let's say it's a spring day here on Lay Lake. Water's running, the current's on. It's 65 degrees, overcast, and you can only take 3 baits with you. And you're going to have to fish all day with 3 lures with you, or 3 things. What 3 things are you going to take?
Swim jig. That's one.
Swim jig.
That's what I actually won my first tournament on.
All right. What's number 2?
Number 2 would have to be a frog. And then number 3, let's think of something a little bit more diverse. Number 3, I'd have to say, would probably just be a shaky head.
Okay.
Shaky head, frog, and a swim jig.
Okay.
Frog for top water. The swim jig, it's a fast moving bait, and if I want something slower, shaky head on the bottom.
All right. Otter, you liked that question, didn't you?
Oh yes, and mine would have been a buzz bait.
Yeah,
mine would have been a buzz bait. What's the biggest fish you ever caught? Biggest bass?
Biggest bass I ever caught was a 9-pound 3-ounce bass out here on Lay Lake.
Wow, that's big.
It was on a buzz bait at night.
Oh man!
I caught a big fish on a buzz bait one day, and that is a lot of fun.
Jeff, you got a question?
Well, I'm gonna make him a promise because I can see it. I can see the future. I believe.
Right.
You know, when he's out here competing in the Bassmasters on Lay Lake, the Farm Boys will be at weigh-in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Civic Center. We'll be there. and I can see that happening.
Yeah.
Oh yes, he's driven. I mean, you can see that drive.
Happening. He'll be in it.
You know, with that being said, we hadn't really broke it to Jeff yet. We kind of want to change. We're talking about going to the Auburn Vanderbilt game in Nashville, but Will Davis is, which as you mentioned earlier, is fishing in the Bassmasters in Knoxville, and that's the Super Bowl of bass fishing, correct?
It is.
All right, and we kind of think we want to change our road trip and go to the weigh-in one day. Have you been to the weigh-in at one of them?
I have. I actually went to the Bassmaster Classic in Gunnersville whenever Hank Cherry won. So, and let me tell you what, there is nothing like the Bassmasters Classic. When they do it, it's a once-a-year thing. It's the biggest dream for a fisherman to get in there. And that stage, I mean, it's just terrific. And then, you know, for fishermen, the expo before the weigh-in, all the companies that are there, you know, some of the biggest name companies get there and they have their little booths and they actually let you know about new products coming out and stuff like that. You can buy stuff there. It's phenomenal.
Okay, well, are you planning to go when Will?
100%.
Okay, and I think when talking to Will's parents at church, and of course I went to high school with Donna, who's actually a year older than me, but looks 10 years younger than me. You know, they're pretty much going to have a section, or everybody's going to try to set together that's supporting Will.
Right.
So I think we may go up on a Thursday night and then go to weigh in on Friday and go see all the expo and stuff.
That'd be fun.
And we probably need to get there early because we went to Thompson Bowling last year for the Auburn, Tennessee game, and we were sitting in the upper section. It seats about 23,000 people. So Otter climbing the steps, we thought we was going to lose Otter that day. We thought he was going to die going up those steps. So we definitely want to do that because, you know, and like I said, Will and William are role models to you and have helped you out a lot.
So now I want to go support them.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I do have a question. What's the different ways to get in the Bassmasters?
Good question.
That is a good question. And this is where it can get tricky. You know, a lot of people straight out of college, they're trying to figure out what can I do? And this is stuff that I think about because I'm always planning ahead. So when you get out of college, of course, you want to have a good job so that way you can start building up your funds and pay your bills on stuff because a lot of people have student loans. Maybe you have a house payment, car payment, stuff like that. But basically what you want to do is you want to set a fund. That way you can have a savings account and you want to save up money in that account for a while. Because these opens that you have to fish, they can cost $1,000 just for an entry. So you want to have a good foundation of money to where you can kick it off. So you can fish the opens And they've actually now made it to where you have to fish all the opens in order to qualify. And usually they take the top 10 or 20% of who placed the best at the end of the year in the opens, and then they'll move them on to the elites.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how that works. Which the side that I'm really looking at going towards would be the MLF. That's where I'm thinking about wanting to actually take my time to and fishing the Big Five.
Mm-hmm.
I like that format better because they actually have two formats. You can fish for the most weight that you can go for all day, or you can fish for the best 5. Which one I'm gonna go for, I'm not sure yet, but I do love finding schooling bass, and I love to catch 100 bass. That's what really gets me during tournaments because I got to catch 5 of the biggest ones. So
that is cool. Now, I got a question for you.
mm-hmm.
Otter is notorious for hating cold weather.
I was going to ask this question now, but go ahead.
How do you dress, and how do you prepare mentally for some of these tournaments that's just in brutal conditions?
And are you going to fish this weekend?
This weekend I would fish actually.
Wow.
Be a good time to fish, yeah. Actually, bass love it whenever it's cold. But the biggest thing I can say to anybody getting into fishing is you're going to get what you pay for. 100%. I actually just ordered, and luckily I got a discount with it. I actually just ordered a brand new striker suit, and it's fully insulated. They're specifically for fishing, waterproof, windproof. So I got the insulated bibs and jacket, and a few weekends ago on Neely Henry, it was a 30-degree day. All I had on underneath was some sweatpants and a hoodie, and then I had the bibs and the jacket, and I stayed warm all day. So really, they've started designing all this new technology so you can handle those rough days on the water whenever it's rainy or it's super cold. But, you know, there's a few things that are left out. You got your head and you got your hands, and that's where you just have to say, okay, forget about it. You don't think about the feeling, and you just got to go with it.
Oh, man.
I mean, I can't see anything stopping him.
Yeah. Now, I've got this question. Having been to a Bassmasters weigh-in, all right, the weigh-in's obviously in the afternoon. If we wanted to get up there and take everything in, what time would we need to get there to get the full experience of the day before the weigh-in actually happens?
Usually around 9 to 10 o'clock is whenever I like to be there, because the first thing I like to do is I want to go and tour the entire expo, because they have an expo just before the weigh-in. So I love to go through, and you can see what us fishermen are all about, and you can actually meet pro anglers there that are representing their sponsors. So anybody that doesn't make it, they're going to be there at the expo. So like last year I met Kevin Van Dam, and I met Scott Martin, and I met tons of pro anglers. I can't name all of them. I got a jersey with all their signatures on it, so
okay,
it's really cool.
Well, let me ask you this: you know, we all like to eat too. Do they? Well, they have food vendors and stuff there.
They do. They do.
Okay.
Yeah. I like to eat too, so yeah, they do have food vendors there.
I've got one more thing I want to say, and all right, you hear so many people talk about the youth of today and unmotivated and that kind of stuff. It's kind of referred to as generational bashing. But y'all came to my school earlier in the year. We're very impressed with the students.
Very impressed.
All right. We went to Lincoln, unbelievably impressed there. And Mason here is unbelievably driven. I'm not really worried. You know, I mean, I think we got some people out there that are truly driven to do great things.
Yes, I'm really impressed with Mason.
Yeah.
And I think the
Mason
one thing I can say about that is, you know, it takes a certain amount of determination, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And really, what I would suggest to anybody is find what you love doing. Find what you love doing and spend time and put time to doing it and work harder. And a lot of this is, I'm gonna have to hate on some old people a little bit, but a lot of people tell me enjoy your younger years, because when you get older, you're gonna be working for the rest of your life. And this is my perception on it. Work early so the rest of your life is easy.
Oh,
Very smart.
Yeah, that is good. All right, I would like for you to talk about your YouTube channel a little bit.
Yes.
My YouTube channel, I was really young. It goes by the handle Mid-Alabama Bassin TV. Y'all can find me on YouTube there. I don't have a huge subscriber rate right now, but I figured I'll start early, go into college with it, and a lot of the colleges are actually interested in that. They want somebody that's good with video. So I started teaching myself early, and really when I started YouTube, it wasn't, you know, so that I wasn't really thinking, oh, well, this could help me in the future. I just wanted to do it for fun. But yeah, I do a bunch of fishing videos on there. I do a lot of tutorials. I do also a bunch of local companies here that sponsor me. And I love doing videos like that. So that's where you guys can find me, Mid-Alabama Bassin TV on YouTube.
Awesome.
Very impressive.
Otter, Jeff, y'all got anything else?
No.
I mean, Mason is just, you know, if a media person wanted to interview him, it would be a great interview.
Right,
I mean, you know, it's
absolutely.
it's just amazing. And one last thing, see, he's what's known as a digital native.
Yeah.
He came up with this stuff, so he's not afraid of it.
Right.
Whereas we old guys, you know, when we got a calculator in high school, we were scared of it.
Didn't have a calculator in
Yeah,
high school.
and we are.
You know, and the other thing, I'm going to be mad at Auburn if they don't say that. They don't know what they're missing out
No,
on.
they have no clue what they're missing
Yeah.
out on. Hey, once again, great for you to take some time out of your day to come over here and spend with us. And what buttons do we hit, guys?
Tell them, John Howard.
Like, subscribe, and share.
And hit that what?
Bell.
For what?
Good job.
Notifications.
All right, John
Good
Howard
job,
is a
buddy.
star. Hey, thanks for checking out the Coosa River Farm Boys. All right, we got Jeff Rose. Maybe just a little bonus thing we throw out there. All right, Otter, tell our viewers how terrified Jeff is of snakes.
Very, very don't like them at all.
And any snake he sees at Purcell Farms is some type of pit viper in his
Oh
mouth.
yeah, it's a cottonmouth or a
Cottonmouth copperhead.
copperhead.
A
Or, yeah.
cottonmouth copperhead.
Rattlesnake.
Yeah.
And he is terrified. So I picked up something for Jeff.
Uh-oh.
I picked up something for Jeff, and he can take it with him to work.
Don't hit him, Jeff.
It is snakes of Alabama and Mississippi.
Oh,
So
okay.
I know how Jeff is. He will study this thing, and he's liable to take it to work with you, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I might do that. And they're all still going to be cottonmouth, copperhead waters, or rattlesnakes. Yeah.
And tell him real quick about our two buddies at the golf course that did the big mistake a few weeks ago when we got back up in the
for
sea.
golf balls too early. Yeah, that one, this one, where is it? Where's the
Cottonmouth.
cottonmouth at? Do you see
Well, I
it?
can't see him with.
There's so many snakes. Are all these here?
Yeah, in Alabama and Mississippi.
Okay. Good
But
numbers.
anyway, there's your cottonmouth right there.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, and he probably there was a golf ball near it, and he stepped, from me to John Howard from the snake, didn't he?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would have had a heart attack.
Yeah.
You see him a lot in fishing.
Yeah, a lot of water snakes. Usually I see a bunch of water snakes.
Well, if it was a snake, it was a.
It was a copperhead. If it was
Okay, I appreciate this. Thank you. Al.
All right,
Thank you.
And
very
you
much.
can just put that in your golf bag,
I will. I'll put it in.
and we can identify. Now, real quick, I know this will air next week, but tell everybody what we got blowing in here Thursday.
Thursday night.
Well, it keeps going down. Friday, the high all day is, I think when I saw it this morning, was 22.
Right.
With a 20-mile-an-hour northwest wind. That's the hottest of the whole day. So, I mean, the if you figure the wind chill factor into that, it's 8 degrees. The high Saturday, Christmas Eve, I think, is 29 with the same kind of wind. So,
And the low is supposed to be like, what, 10 degrees? 12
Yeah.
degrees?
And I'm like you, they keep fudging it lower.
Right, yeah, it keeps going down.
And I think Otter was talking about earlier, Thursday we're going to drop like 40 degrees.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Thursday night into Friday morning, they said on TV this morning we would go from 50 degrees Thursday night to 12 degrees
Correct.
Friday morning.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And this is what's known as a polar vortex, right, Jeff Rowe?
Right, yeah. You learned a lot about that. Explain what that is to us.
Well, Jeff's helped me out with the weather. I enjoy the weather, but not to the extent and knowledge he does. We normally have a blocking high that keeps the Arctic air from coming down. So what we've explained it, or I explained it, it's like that blocking high has a hernia. And it's going to let that Arctic Siberian blast dip all the way to the Gulf of Mexico.
Going to penetrate.
All right, kind of like I had a hernia right here. I think I hollered too much coaching basketball, and I had to have hernia surgery. But it's going to allow that Arctic blast. Do you know that Tampa, Florida, has a wind chill warning for the first time in like 14 years coming up?
Right, yeah, and that'll really affect the orange crop.
Yeah, the orange prices will go up. But I wanted to give that to Jeff so he wouldn't.
Good description, though.
Oh, well,
Good. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I've been studying it a lot. But we want everybody to stay warm. And we may be going out of state next week for a special trip for Adventures with the Otter. Okay? And look, I think my favorite, it's December, so we're wishing everybody a Merry Christmas.
Right.
All right. Remember the reason for the season. All right. And also, I think my favorite episode we've done, we started this, last May?
Right.
All right. I think my favorite episode is the Missing River Otter Part 2.
That's definitely mine, right.
It caused us a lot of stress, but when we found him in the end, and our viewers were just distraught, and then the celebrations that took place when we found out he was okay.
We had everybody searching for him. I mean, the on the lake, everywhere.
Right, everybody. Well, look, just a little bonus thing for you. Hit that like, share, subscribe, and what?
Bell for notifications.
Bell for notifications. And everybody stay warm. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.